When something is so mouth-wateringly juicy, so satisfyingly crispy, so perfectly hand-breaded that you just want it all to yourself, you don't have to share, but it'd be a lot cooler if you did. The new Zax's Pack for 2. With 8 chicken fingers, double the fries, 2 drinks, and that world-famous Zax sauce. Twice the flavor for just $14.99. Only at Zaxby's. Try it with fried pickles for a limited time. Order ahead, drive-thru, or get it delivered.
From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up, wake up. Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
So come on and tickety-check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? Welcome on into Wake Up Warchant, proudly presented by Zaxby's Indescribably Good. I'm Aslan Hajavandi alongside Corey Clark. We work for Warchant.com. It is the ultimate Seminole sports source. Use the promo code Warchant30 for 30 free days of access to the website. And then when you get your free Warchant, maybe go buy yourself some chicken fingers, get some Zax sauce. You already know my feelings on that. All right, Corey, usually we do some preamble. How was your day? My day was good. Let's just get right to it. It's a Renegade Express edition of the show. There's been a lot going on with Florida State. And it's funny just kind of see the way the questions evolve. This one came at 11 in the morning on Thursday from Tyson E23. He joined September 3rd, 2017, which I think is a day that will live in infamy. Was that the day we lost to Alabama?
That seems right. Was it September 3rd? I know it was 17.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Anyhow, this is first ever message, or her first ever message. Wake up! Hope you guys are having a great day through this quarantine. We all know about the disastrous misstep by Norvell, but is it enough to cost him his job? Apparently not. No. And then also, what do you think is worst case scenario from this situation? Go Noles. Real quickly for me, Corey, I'm probably going to say this at least 3 or 4 times in this show and maybe even moving forward. Ultimately, what a absolutely crazy whirlwind 15 hours it was from the time that Marvin retweeted the transcription from Tashawn Reed from The Athletic, who's the one who captured the comments from Mike Norvell. But ultimately, man, like going to sleep on Wednesday night, waking up Thursday morning, it felt very ominous. It felt very doom and gloom. But ultimately, man, I really think at the end of the day, after I saw the reaction from everybody on Twitter, including Marvin Wilson's himself later on Thursday, this ultimately to me feels like 1 step backwards, 2 steps forward. So as crazy as that sounds, I think this is actually, me being the skeptical negative guy, I think it's actually going to bring this team together quite nice. I think it's going to be a galvanizing moment for the program.
It really can be. It's funny. I was at Brady actually had don't tell anyone. Brady actually had a baseball practice on Thursday afternoon, and I was there. And one of the coaches, one of the dads from one of Brady's sort of friends, is a Florida State fan, and we've talked about Florida State football over the years. And he came up to me, saw me there, was like, "Wow, it's been a crazy day, huh?" And I go, "Yeah, that was something." And he basically said, the same thing you did. He goes, the way it was handled, it seems like it could almost be galvanizing. Like it could, that was the word he used. It could galvanize them and it could make them stronger. There is a chance that could happen. It's certainly, like you said, when I saw it early Thursday morning, I guess late Wednesday night before I went to bed, and I put something on the boards about it. I was
Way
like,
to
man,
be a
this
trooper, by the way, Corey. Way to put that up, man.
That's what Aslan. That's what I do. That's the thing that people don't. That's the little peek behind the curtains of how I kind of just make Warchant run. Like, I don't know that we without me, I don't know that Warchant would still be a site. You would agree with that, right?
It's just, what's the planet? Like the planet's 23% land, and then Dion covers the rest. Like right. Ira and Gene handle 23% of the day, and then you're up, yeah. Mr. Night Owl, making everything else happen.
Well, that was funny. I saw because I didn't see it on Twitter. I saw your text. And I was like, oh, I'm sure Ira's on that. That's just my natural thought. Ira will take care of that. And then 20 minutes later, I realized, oh, no, he hasn't responded, and I don't see anything on Warchant. He's probably in bed. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I need to go ahead and get this up. I don't know if it's worth a story, because I thought maybe there's a chance he would delete the tweet.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I'm gonna have a story up with all these with all these tweets in it that just say tweet deleted, yeah. Which will people like, what was this? Yeah. So I just made it a message board post, but you could tell immediately, and this was 1:30 in the morning. Oh boy. Oh, yeah. This is a really big deal. And yeah, so going to the point that I was trying to make before I got off on one of my tangents, ominous is the right word. Like, I thought, man, there is a chance that Norvell wasn't going to be fired. I didn't think, because I thought I thought there was not an easy explanation, but there was an explanation. Like, I thought what happened. I thought he sent a text to everyone saying, look, if you want to talk, if you feel like you want to share feelings with me, I'm here. Please respond. Please talk. But the way he represented it was either either it was a misrepresentation or he just misspoke or whatever. He shouldn't have said every player and he should have said some players. I get all that. But I can also understand why Marvin was mad. So when that happened, I was like, man, this might break the team in half. Mm-hmm. Like, literally, there's a chance if this isn't handled well on Thursday morning, there is a chance that, this thing could fracture. And so when you talk about that, and I just wrote about it. I wrote about it should be on Warchant by the time people are listening to this, about the crazy 24 hours that Mike Norvell wakes up to see that I assume he wakes up to see that the best player on his roster just basically called him a liar to the public, for the whole world to see, and said the team was outraged and they were going to stop voluntary workouts until further notice. The best player on the roster did that. And then 15 hours later, we're being told the entire roster is going to be registered voters. Like, the 180, I don't even know if that's a 180. It's just completely opposite. It's making something good out of something that could have been really bad. And I kind of likened it to, when you have maybe you're dating a girl and you have a fight, in something, or I don't want to say it, not a relationship like a dating relationship. Like, you have a friend that's a pretty good friend, and then you guys get into a argument, and some things are said, and it can be pretty raw. But if you stay friends with that person after everything's on the table, and you get everything out, and then there's an apology, and then there's a bro hug or a real hug. Maybe not now because of what's going on, but
correct.
Not because of the virus, but then you're stronger than it. There really can be a bond there. Like, now we've been through it. We've said our piece. We're better friends for it. That now there's another way it can go where you're not friends anymore at all, and you don't want to see that a-hole ever again. But we all have those friends in our lives where there was one or two moments where you're like, dude, I'm tired of this. This is why I don't like, and you go in, you probably shouldn't say this is why I don't like you, but this is the problem I have. And just let it all out there. And if the dialogue continues and you can build on that, it can become something. And I do think there's a good chance that happened, because I think the most important thing Norvell did was he admitted he was wrong. And that seems obvious that he admitted that.
That bothers a lot of people, though, unfortunately, I think, Corey.
Oh, really?
A lot of people, I think, are upset that Norvell had to apologize for what seems to be a minor transgression. But I don't think those people can be reached. Not to go like all CNN out here.
Well, but you think of the context of that tweet. Obviously, what's happening in the world, in the images we see on CNN, the images that Marvin has seen on CNN or on Twitter or on everything else for the past 9 or 10 days, going back to that crazy idiot in the park that calls the cops on the bird watcher. That's all happened in the span of the last 2 weeks. So you have that. And then you have, on top of what's been going on, obviously in the world in that regard, just the actual news and the protests, you also have Drew Brees. And I think that was almost like almost a free when athletes. You also had the Clemson thing with Dabo and the assistant coach saying the word you can't say that nobody should ever want to say. That when that happens, that's the context. That's the backdrop to Marvin seeing that tweet and saying, you know what, I'm not going to let him say it. I'm not going to let him characterize it as that when he knows that's not true. You can agree with it or not agree with it. That's fine. That's your right, just like he has a right to express his opinion. But I think it was the momentum of obviously what's gone on the last 2 weeks to Drew Brees and what happened there. Just the whole thing. I just think he was fed up, and he happens to have a big platform because he's a really good football player. The Memphis second-string linebacker makes a tweet like that. Don't think it becomes a big deal. But when you're an All-American potential first-round pick at Florida State University and you tweet about your first-year head coach, it's going to be a big deal. And if Norvell doesn't apologize, then what? Because the only other person you couldn't lose in the locker room that would be a bigger loss as far as the culture and what you're trying to build and the belief in who you are and the trust would be if Odell tweeted that about you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Right.
Marvin is the guy on that team. So you've got to make sure that he's on board because he came back to school. He is there. He is the leader. He's just he's been a really good Seminole, and he's a good student, a smart person. I think they all look up to him. They respect him. And yeah, that's you've got to get ahead of that, and you've got to make sure Marvin believes what you're saying. And I judging from how quickly it turned into what it turned into later on Thursday, I think Norvell must have done a really good job in that department. Norvell and his coaching staff. I think the coaches probably played a very pivotal role in that as well.
Yeah, because we saw Ron Dugans, Chris Marv. I think both tweeted out really sincere, introspective messages about what was going on around them, and them obviously both being African American, men, and having to watch this and live through it. I thought they shared some really poignant comments. So I'm sure they also were involved in helping to sort of mend any bridge. But yeah, that's to me like this is like the best case scenario. This is how things happen. I mean, conversations happen, maybe gets mischaracterized. Somebody, a student athlete has the platform these days, has leverage to be able to voice their concern, their disappointment in something, and then a coach. I mean, this happens 25, 30 years ago. Marvin's probably walking. He's probably kicked off a team. But the fact that we have to be open to listening to other voices, to be players have an equal sort of say. They have an equal share in what's going on around them, and it's their program as well. And to have Mike Norvell handle it to the point to where Marvin's posting a 4-minute video 2-piece that's pretty uplifting, that's getting really positive traction on social media, and Norvell tweets out sort of his apology or his clarification a few hours later on the day. Nothing was hasty. I know people can say that maybe the way that Marvin reacted on Wednesday night, early Thursday morning might have been a hasty sort of reaction. But I just think it's a raw, real reaction that it's almost disingenuous to want somebody to react any way differently. It got smoothed over in what seems to me to be almost like a perfect case, because the way I envision it is to your point about being friends and kind of going at it, and then you end up being stronger. It's like me and my brother growing up. Like, we would get into some really bad, nasty fights, and then I'm like, get the hell away from me. Like, I don't want to see you. And then, an hour or two later, like you're joking around, and those are the sort of things that kind of bring you together. I really do, man, just because of the way everybody kind of took Marvin's back when he first was upset, and then when he said, hey, listen, I talked to Coach, we're good, and then everybody retweeted that and had positive things. Kevon Glenn, I think, is one of the guys who had a pretty nice sort of message to tack on top of that. And you see Tamori and Terry with a really heartfelt, sincere, message about we all need to be on the same team. And it wasn't a cliche thing. I almost just characterized it as being a cliche message. It really wasn't. And again, I think Mike Norvell, the way he handled it, hey, my bad. I get it. I'm gonna be better. Things are important. The way we talk and the words that we use are really important. Man, I'm incredibly uplifted and feel really good about the way this sort of was handled. It's fallen off the front page of ESPN.com. It was like I think the highest it got was like the 5th bullet point. I think they have about 6 bullet points on their headline. So I really think it's. Again, I'm a cynical, negative guy by nature, it seems, to a lot of people that listen to this show, but I'm really encouraged by the way everybody handled this, man, and really proud of the way David Coburn handled himself at that Board of Trustees meeting. There's a video of it that's on the website from a story that Ira did, and just everybody's sort of reaction, at least that's on the team, I'm really I feel really great about, man.
Yeah, I would encourage everyone to go seek out and find the Marvin Wilson video if you haven't seen it, and also go seek out and find David Coburn's comments to the Board of Trustees meeting, because that was pretty powerful stuff. I mean, there were completely different kind of messages. Obviously, David Coburn was talking about the student athletes and doing right by the student athletes and having these uncomfortable conversations, but that they need to be had. And then Marvin was speaking obviously from a completely different perspective, but equally as powerful. It was a pretty remarkable day. It really was. It was especially, when the question I think was about about Norvell losing his job. The only way that I could, and look, some stuff was going on in my head late last night.
Yeah.
Like, man, this is really bad.
Right.
This time to come across as you're lying about how much you care about what your African-American athletes are going through, like that you're just your empty words that you don't really, you're saying that you care, but you really don't. I don't think Norvell's that guy. And obviously I don't think the Florida State players do either. Not anymore. They might have for a stretch there. But I was going to say, I don't think Marvin's not going to do something like that hastily. He's a thoughtful guy. You've talked to him. You guys have all seen the interviews with that kid. He is a smart dude. He is a thoughtful guy. He is a mature guy. And that wasn't done lightly. I don't think it was like, wait, what is this? Hey, we're not working out anymore. I think he talked to other players on the team. As much as Marvin is a leader on that team, I don't think he has carte blanche to just say, hey, everybody, we're not working out anymore. I'm mad. I think he ran it by enough teammates to know that's what he wanted to do, and that was the step he was going to take. So it was not hastily done. It had thought behind it. And and he had every right to do it. In my opinion, he had every right to do it, just like Norvell had every right to respond. And now but going back to Norvell, the only way that I could see that I was really concerned is like if he came back at Tashawn and was like, he misquoted me. That's not what I said. I promise you that's not what I said. Because I know Tashawn was getting stuck. Tashawn Reed from The Athletic, who had the quote initially, he had the quote that Marvin retweeted or quote tweeted with his comments. And I was like, Tashawn did not make up anything. Let's go. That dude's a professional. Yeah. I know he's not on the beat anymore. I think is he the Las Vegas Raiders now? Is that right?
Man. Yeah, man.
Man, going to from Tallahassee to Vegas. But he wasn't. He's not making up anything. I was 100% sure that quote was verbatim. But if Norvell would have come and said, no, that's a lie. I did not say that. He's making that up. And then Tashawn had obviously the recording. That's where it could get dicey. Yeah. But Norvell admitted it apparently to the team immediately. Yeah, I said it. I'm not questioning that I said it. It's and admitted that he was wrong in the way he phrased it. So we're all one big happy family now, man.
Yeah, and again, I think Tashawn. I mean, I didn't really read. I'm not a subscriber to The Athletic. I've never read any of his stuff, but I think I have a pretty good idea of the way he's sort of been framed by a lot of the fans. And it was pretty absurd just to kind of see, look who's the one that wrote this, and it was just like, man, there's literally this was a part of a sort of I don't know, like an anthology of uplifting, change, agent sort of quotes from coaches and players across the country. Every sort of writer from The Athletic was chipping in their own kind of story about the teams they cover, and Tashawn obviously covered Florida State, so. He kind of piped in with it.
Well, and right now, he's not the beat writer now, but I don't think they've replaced him, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so they asked Tashawn to do that for them. It wasn't in any way a gotcha story.
Yeah.
It was The Athletic that covers 50 colleges asking all their writers I'm sure maybe even NFL writers, but I think it was just college football coaches, how they're dealing with the current climate, the current landscape, and the evolving landscape. And so it was a legitimate, 100% legitimate question. It was not a gotcha question. And I thought Norvell's answer, other than, that second sentence there, was a perfectly fine answer. And it was just that second sentence, which, didn't turn out to be accurate, was the problem. But the problem wasn't the person taking down the quote. The problem was the person that gave the quote. He gave a bad quote. You can't blame and I know I'm a media member, but you can't blame a media member for quoting someone accurately in a pretty important story that, has there's a reason to be writing it right now. So anyway, it's all over. We're all happy. We're all good. We're all, like I said, we're one big family now.
And I don't want to parse the entire message.
Was this the only question that we had for Renegade Express?
No, but I mean,
I know, I was just kidding.
I don't want to get here into parsing everything from the actual story that Tashawn wrote, but the ironic thing here, and this sounds like I'm being a shill for the university or like Mike Norvell, but I think in this case, at least for me, when I first saw this, because this story or whatever, the tweet from Tashawn came out like 2-3 days ago, so there's a bit of a delay in terms of Marvin's reaction. It wasn't like Tashawn tweeted it and then an hour later, I think it was almost like a full day later before Marvin reacted to it, is that when you see the notes screenshot from Tashawn and you read the way he introduces the transcription is FSU head coach Mike Norvell had individual conversations with every player on his roster this past weekend focused on the events around the death of George Floyd. Here's his full quote to The Athletic, is that like Mike Norvell's his own worst enemy in this situation, unfortunately, because he did this before. He spoke individually to everybody on the team before the bowl game to sort of get their thoughts and their read on the way the program was. Players that weren't even going to be there anymore, players that were on their way out. So the fact like he took time out of his day to do that, I was like, well, this is something that he obviously has done before. So this isn't him like doing stolen valor and trying to buddy himself up to the sort of the viral movement that's going on and just the way that things feel transformative in the country right now. It was like, oh, yeah, he's done this before. He can do this. So then when Marvin comes back and says, whoa, this didn't happen. Well, when you look at, Mike Norvell never said that he did have like one-on-one interviews or like one-on-one office visits with all of his players. So then you read that and you're like, well, that's a crazy thing. This is all really, as crazy as it sounds like, it's all an innocent sort of mix-up. And there was a lot of feelings and emotion that were valid that really spilled over. And then the fact that everybody was able to kind of smooth it over and seems to spin this in a positive direction moving forward, again, in the less than a day in a 24-hour news cycle is incredible to me.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was just a remarkable, I don't want to say turn of events. It was a remarkable chronology of events. Where it ended up the way it ended up, and we never know. It could 10 years from now, Norvell might be in Marvin Wilson's wedding. Like, who knows? Who knows what their relationship is going to be? But it was at least mended to the point where Marvin tweeted about his appreciation for Norvell giving him that platform, and he talked about what he wanted, what they were wanted to get accomplished as a team off the field. They're off the field goals for the next year. Which I just thought, again, was when you think about a guy with that platform who's 21 to film himself for 4 minutes, he ain't looking at notes. That his phone doesn't have a teleprompter. Yeah. That's just him off the cuff, off the chest,
off the dome.
I showed Brady. I was like, I explained because he wanted. I think he saw it on the bottom line, and I had to explain to him what happened. I'm like, here, come here and watch this, and I made him watch Marvin's video, his 4-minute video. I wanted him to see it. There's so much different perspective in this world, in this country, and I want him to try to understand as much as possible and have empathy with as many different types of people. Some a 300-pound black man from Houston, Texas. Brady's going to be a 160-pound white kid from Buford, Georgia. But I want him to be able to empathize. I want him to be able to, just try to understand. So it was cool. I got to use, and Marvin's one of his favorite players anyway, and I got to kind of use that as a lesson. And again, it doesn't really matter whether you thought he should have done it or not. I'm talking about you. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about the people listening. Yeah. The royal you. He did it. He felt he wanted to do it. He was angry enough to do it. And it's what happened after that I think is what Florida State fans should be encouraged by. I might be, a Pollyanna. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe the thing crumbles. But it really seemed like it was what happened on the second half of the day was really encouraging.
Let's dovetail into this. Again, there's, two sides to, I think, the way that people have reacted to this. Again, there's been a lot of really good messages on Warchant, which is a tough place to kind of dive into in times like this because people are so passionate about things, and it's tough to talk nuance about such delicate topics because we're just sports fans ultimately. Nole Girl 30, been around since October 30th, 2018, their first ever message post.
All right. 2 in a row, huh?
Yes. And good morning. I've been a longtime listener of your podcast and a member since October. I'm from Monticello, but I'm not sure of any famous people from our town. Jared Jackson, Ira's favorite, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Special
the
teams.
The kid that was playing ahead of Tamori and Terry in 2017.
Even though I don't always agree with you guys, I enjoy listening to you talk FSU sports very much. I'm going to throw out an opinion that I do not expect to be popular. Marvin Wilson showed extreme immaturity by blasting his coach on social media. He should have went to Norvell directly to work it out. He has caused negative publicity that this university cannot afford to have. There are two sides to every story, but I cannot fathom Norvell purposely lying. I believe things were misconstrued. Agree or disagree? Thanks for your time. Keep up the good work. I believe things were misconstrued. I don't think it was showing extreme immaturity. I get a little bit, it's curious to me that we expect 20, 21-year-old, young athletes, young men and women to show a level of restraint and mental and emotional calculus in really trying volatile times, but we don't request other people in positions of power to exercise or display the same sort of composure and, foresight to, count to 10 and then talk about your feelings. It's going to make people be uncomfortable, and that was something David Coburn talked about, that he heard a coach talk about. We need to discover ways to find out, to be comfortable while conversations around us are going to make us feel uncomfortable. So I saw a lot of this, like Noel Girl 30, she says it's an unpopular opinion. I don't know where it polls at. I don't know if it's a 60-40 thing or where it ranks in terms of the way that the people feel about it, but she's definitely not the only one. There was a lot of people that were upset about it, felt that Marvin, people telling him to beat it. This was he should have been a man and talked to his coach first, face to face. I understand that would have been ideal, but we don't live in a world where things happen in a vacuum like that. I'm not bothered at all by the way Marvin reacted. I wasn't, and the ultimate end game doesn't change my feelings on it. I feel the same way I did earlier.
Yeah, and I think, but I think you could agree, like I can agree, that I can understand that side of it. Just because I think in my opinion, he had the right to do that, and I think even Nogal thinks he has the right to do it. Nobody's saying infringing on his rights to tweet, but you could also see the side where you're like, man, was that really the best thing for Florida State for you to air that publicly at 12:30 in the morning, instead of text him at 7 in the morning and say, Coach, what does this mean? Because this isn't true. Explain this to me. I get that side of it. Yeah. I get it. That doesn't mean I agree with it, but I get that side of it. But the problem is, it's not Marvin Wilson doesn't really. It's not his job to care about how Florida State look, in my opinion. Certainly in his opinion, he didn't care how it made Florida State look in that moment. He was thinking about bigger things, I guess, is the way he probably would phrase it, than just a football team. And he wanted his frustrations aired publicly because that's how upset he was by it. You can agree, you can disagree. That's fine, but he has the right. He has the right to do it. He just does.
I just saw a lot of shut up and dribble kind of posts on the message board, and I don't want to mischaracterize Noel Girl 30's message of
well, but that's different, right?
That.
That's a different parallel because that's like saying I don't think she's saying that Marvin Wilson's viewpoint is worthless. Like, hey man, just go sack quarterbacks. Nobody needs to hear from you. I don't think it's that. I don't think she or people that agree, that might be on that side think that he doesn't have any right to have that opinion and he doesn't have any right to be upset. I think their only concern was why do that publicly when it could hurt recruiting, it could hurt your first year head coach, it could hurt this, it could hurt that. And the counter obviously is that, well, that's not Marvin's problem, man. He was mad in the moment and he wanted it out there because he was trying to affect change. And maybe he doesn't think maybe if he does it the way you guys wanted to do it, the whole team wouldn't be registering to vote. And maybe his 3-minute video wouldn't have hundreds of thousands of views. Like there's positives and negatives to every act like that. But I think he had a bigger purpose in mind than just alienating his head coach or outing his head coach.
It's like a case of stolen valor, man. I don't think a lot of people bite their lip when they see and hear stories of stolen valor. And this is obviously is not to that degree, but yeah, it's like talking about, I'm on the front lines every day, fighting COVID-19 and yada yada. And it's like, no, you're not. You're not a nurse. You're just like I don't know. You do the landscaping around a hospital, like simmer down there.
Right. Don't you think it's also the issue that Norvell was being asked about? If Norvell had been asked about,
well, again, here's my thing. I almost called you Ira, Corey. I'm sorry. I'll put myself in timeout.
Don't do that. Don't ever do that.
Again, I mean, it's like Norvell's his own worst enemy in this situation because I don't think most people would have assumed that he meant, like I've had one-on-one conversations with, if you read the actual quote from Tashawn says conversation. So I think when most people think conversation, even though it's 2020, we still think of in-person, face-to-face.
Right.
I'm like, there's no way he's done that. But again, like he set the precedent before where he did this in bowl preps. You're like, well, this guy, like when he really wants to drive something home, like he'll set aside the time and make it happen. Not to say that he doesn't care about Black Lives Matter and trying to get equality and a voice to his players and to this nation and to stop police brutality. But like the fact that, I think for Florida State fans that were aware of that, like that's what makes you kind of, when you just see the tweet in your feed and you're scrolling through, like, oh, that's awesome. Like, Mike Norvell, that's cool. That's my coach. Look at him taking time out of his day to make sure he talks to every single player. And then if he never would have had that sort of meeting before with the players before the bowl prep, you would have just been like, yeah, I had we went back and forth. You're like, oh, that's cool. Like he talked to a couple of the guys or whatever. Like we didn't have these heartfelt one-on-ones. So I think like that opened the door for us to really expect maybe too much out of the guy. Because
I think it was, but don't you think it was just the wording? I mean, he said I had a back and forth with every player. A back and forth doesn't elicit the thought of you just sent out a text.
Right.
That's just the fourth part of it. You would say I had a fourth with every player, but a back and forth implies there was a dialogue, and there wasn't with every player. And he just I don't think it was malicious, but that's a topic that you don't want to come across as someone that's just saying platitudes or I don't even know if I'm using that word correctly. That's giving meaningless, empty words about how you feel about this subject. But in reality, oh yeah, I've had a back and forth with every player on it. Well, no, you haven't. That's what Marvin's thought. Well, I assume Marvin's thought was, well, no, you didn't have one with me. Yeah. Let me text these other guys. Well, you didn't have one with them either. So what are you talking about? Don't misrepresent the conversations we've had about this very important and delicate topic to a reporter. So I think if he was talking about grade point averages or anything else, any other topic, I don't think Marvin feels the need to do that publicly. Right. But because it was that topic, and because maybe it's because he's only known him for 6 months. He's his third head coach in 4 years. That was he just felt the need to do it. Again, I do see both sides. I mean, I don't see any side where you should tell Marvin to shut up. It's not your concern. Obviously, I think most everyone with a working IQ understands that he has the right to feel that way, and he has the right to bring it up to his coach. Some people have a problem with how he brought it up to the head coach.
All right, hey, let's take some questions that are maybe not as heavy. Let's lighten up a little bit here. So we are going to be unveiling the Warchant Top 40 for 2020 here coming up. So that was the question I posed to people on Wednesday afternoon before this whole story broke. So basically, who doesn't have Marvin Wilson number one was kind of my message to the people. Big Steve-O 22 says, what's going on, fellas? Hope you guys are continuing to stay safe in this wild world we live in. I'm sure everyone will have Marvin as number one on their list, but I think you could potentially argue that Hamza or Terry could be number one as well. Marvin is by far the best player on the team, but is he the most important player on the team? ? Who do you think will need to either play or exceed their potential for us to really surprise some teams and the league this year?
Name 3 offensive linemen. That's your answer. Right?
Yeah. Baselli, Darius Washington, Brady Scott. Step up, guys.
There you go. If they step up and play, if they're better than average at their positions, then Florida State will have a very good year. I think we both think that Dante Lucas is going to be a good player. Yeah. I don't know if I have confidence with any of the whoever the other 4 end up being. If they're going to end up being good players. Like I have the confidence that Dante Lucas is going to play in the NFL. I don't know you could say that about any of the other guys on the roster. Right. So hopefully they can. That to me is the obviously the position that has to improve, and will dictate so much about how the 2020 season goes. If it could just be average, but as far as personal players, I don't know, man. What do you think about I don't want to say that he's disappointed he got hurt, but someone like a Keyshawn Helton.
Right.
Like if he could have a breakout type of year, what that could do to the offense. Because I think he's a pretty dynamic guy. DJ Matthews too. I almost said him. I don't know why I went with Keyshawn.
Like Keyshawn's got some time. Like DJ's on the clock.
Yeah.
And I think
this needs to be his year.
I think I probably put him too high on my top 40. I originally did not have Marvin or Terry as my number one. And then Gene came back to me and was like, are you on drugs? Like, do you want me to make sure you get tested so you lose your job? Right. Find out whether or not I changed it, whether I buckled to my boss or if I stood firm in my convictions and my beliefs as we unveil the top 40. But yeah, I put I put DJ quite high up there because I do believe like he's on the clock. He's got to make something happen. But my question here, though, is this whole top 40 thing, most important player. This offense, I mean, I don't know where we're at right now in terms of we think the offense or the defense is going to be better, but it's hard for me to like I don't think Florida State is 2009 Alabama or, insert whatever other Alabama team that's won a national title based on their really good defense and subpar quarterback playing. Like, is this team that good enough to where Marvin is like your most important player? Like, they need offensive production. Like, that's why I think a guy like Terry probably is a little bit more important overall because, listen, I understand the game is won in the trenches. Marvin does a lot of invisible things we don't see and appreciate because we follow the ball. But, like, I don't know if this team is one of those ones where it's like, yeah, the defense is going to end up winning games. Like, when it comes down to it, I would rather be, defending a 4-point lead with a minute and a half left and one timeout than I would be rather having the ball in my hand. And a lot of that's just because of the way the game is played now. It's like everything is so tilted towards the offense.
Yeah, sure. I mean, theoretically, you could say if we're going to do the most important player, well, you could make the case for Chubba Purdy. Like, if he can be good enough to win the job and then be good, quarterback is the most important position. Yeah, that's what made this one really hard. Yeah. Not only did you have four quarterbacks you could have put on the list, which is nuts. I don't think I've ever put more than 2 on a list before. I put 3 on this one. I left one off. You'll have to see. You'll have to subscribe and log in to see who I left off. But also, you have all these transfers that we think they're going to be eligible. Some are definitely eligible, but how important is Miko Dotson? Yeah, like
that's
it's already
stacked, man.
That's what I'm saying. Stacked. Like, but if he's good, then he's really important. I mean, if he can pick off 5 passes this year, that would be a really important part of the process. So, or part of the team. So, yeah, man, it's hard to rank them like that. So when it comes to the top of the list, I basically just went, okay, who are the best players? And you're talking about Tamarian, Asante, Hamsa, Marvin. Those are your guys. Corbin, I think Corbin was in my top 10.
I was uneasy about Hamsa just because, like, man, he had a pretty major injury, did he not? Like, there wasn't – Dante broke his leg. Like, this day and age, breaking bones is not is a piece of cake. Like, you get the cast, and then it's 6 weeks or whatever, and then you're good to go. But, man, like, Hamsa got air casted and taken off the cart the last weekend in November. And, with spring getting cut short, not that he would have participated in it. I don't know if he went back home to North Carolina. For a lot of these players, if they left campus, during spring break, they weren't allowed to come back and rehab here. So I don't know if he was one of the guys that stayed around here and was able to rehab. But I just feel uncomfortable putting so much foisting so much expectations on a kid that had. I think it was ligament damage. I probably should have looked this up before I had a take on it. But we all saw him get carted off in Florida. It did not look like a very routine, he'll be fine in like 4 or 5 months sort of a thing. So I feel kind of uncomfortable putting so much expectation on him. But I'm hopeful, though, but I wouldn't bank on it.
Well, yeah, but if he comes back to be the player he was last year, well, that's really important to the team. Yeah. So either way, you're looking all right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you got Hamsa 8. Well, yeah, if he plays like the Hamsa that we know, he will be one of the most – that will be a very important person for this football team.
See, that's an interesting thing, though. Exceed their potential. Like, I would say, like, if Amari Gaynor plays to his potential, that will help the team out greatly. Like, I'm trying to think, who really needs to play.
Well, can you really? Is that even a thing? Can you exceed potential?
That's true. Like 110%, right?
Yeah, it's like you practice at 100. Well, no, why not 120%? Yeah. But if they reach their potential or exceed expectations, I think we're combining the two. But yeah, I had Amari high too. A Gaynor is a guy that I think they have to find a way to get pressure off the edge. I have Kendo in there again, I think in the top 15 or 20 for this 3rd year in a row, because I just think that they have to have a guy that can come off the edge and create pressure. And maybe Kendo's that guy. And if he can have a decent year, if he can have like an all-ACC year, him or J-Rob, that would be huge for the Florida State defense.
Yeah. In closing, from watching you two, this is Big Steve 022, and the rest of the Warchant crew, I can tell you all are some stand-up individuals, and I really appreciate that and wanted to thank you guys. Thank you for being good people. Please continue to be good, wholesome folks. Corey, please continue to instill good values in Brady as he is part of our future moving forward. You seem to have done an amazing job already. As always, Go Noles.
I have a funny story about that. There was a time where Stephanie was on a phone call with someone, I think a colleague, and Brady came into the room she was in to ask for something. And he's like, "Oh, are the headphones in here?" And or he goes, "Can you pass me the headphones, please?" And she passed them to him. He's like, "Okay, thank you very much," and walked out. And the person on the phone with Stephanie. He's like, "Who was that?" And she's like, "Oh, that was my boyfriend's son." He goes, "I'm going to call my son as soon as I get off the phone with you right now and tell him he needs to start learning some manners." Because that was unbelievable. Like, and I'm only saying that because I give Brady a lot of grief on this show, and I give Brady a lot of grief in real life. We don't get a lot of comments from that from people about Brady to that degree. He's one of the ones that the teachers always have to have a conference about because he talks too much. But in that moment, it was a really nice thing to hear that your son got props like that. And so Stephanie was talking to my mom and told her that story, and my mom was like, "Man, Brady's grandmom." Was like, that just makes my day. She goes, I've been having a really bad day watching everything on the news, and that just uplifted my spirits. And so Stephanie told Brady that, "Hey, you made Mimi really happy when I told her that story about how nice you were to me while I was on the phone." And Brady's like, "You know what? I'm just changing people's lives over here. I'm a game changer." It's like, "All right, Brady, calm down, man." He's like, I made your coworker call his own son to tell him he had to be man. I made my grandmom happy, and I didn't even see her. I'm just changing lives." It's like, so that, hey, we're trying to do the best we can with that kid. We're trying to, but I appreciate the message. That was a very thoughtful comment to make.
Mad AMCZ. Wake up! Corey, you must have a little comfort in the Southern Cal quarterback transfer Daniels landing at UGA. Was FSU ever in the mix? He was. Yeah, they were. Well, there was conversations, Michael Langston reported multiple times, that there was mutual interest, but why come to Florida State when you can compete against a guy from Wake Forest in Athens, right? Right.
Is he going to be available, though? Won't he have to sit out a year?
Well, yeah, because they're the whole, exception or whatever, the one-time transfer thing that everyone thought was inevitable.
Yeah.
They pumped the brakes on that, so.
Yeah.
All right, I can't get my mind off our quarterback situation. Someone predicted on the Tribal Council that Jordan Travis would be starting week 1 over James Blackman. Yes, he is electric when running, but can he make the throws that Norvell's offense requires? I can't recall seeing him throw it once in a legit game situation. It's all about getting the ball to the playmakers. Please, both give us your best prediction on who wins the job, and I think you should bet on it. Corey wins. Aslan has to shave his head and grow a beard like Corey. Aslan wins, and Corey has to, you name it, Aslan.
Yeah, but who do you think is going to win? We have to have legitimate competing thoughts.
Prediction on who's going to win the job. I feel like if James, if you're listening to this, man, just skip ahead. Look in the item description. Don't need to be hearing this from me, man. I just feel like Chubba. I haven't seen anything. Just watching film of him in Gilbert High School in Arizona, flinging the ball around because Tate Rodmaker got no head start on him. For all intents and purposes, neither did Jordan Travis. There's no spring. There's 3 practices, 1 in pads. And James is, I don't know how much scarring he has on his psyche that can be healed. So why not bring the kid that's kind of almost, I don't want to say dumb because I'm sure he's an intelligent kid, but hasn't been thrown in the fire, knows no better, to kind of just go out there and, hey, yeah, man, just get the ball out on time. He's got really good pocket presence. He makes good reads, and he steps up in the pocket, and he's able to scramble and make kind of some. And again, I don't think you need to be a running quarterback in Mike Norvell's offense. That's not a prerequisite. But the fact that he was able to do that, and he's got pretty good touch on the long ball too. And James Blackman did 1 point as well, but it's become sort of an erratic thing for him. So I'm crazy, man. I'm hitching my wagon to Chubba.
Yeah, I talked about the friend that was at the park when Brady was practicing. He asked me who the quarterback was going to be, and I'm like, man, I don't know. I said, I think I guess I'm 51% leaning like you are to Chubba, and I was like, I just don't know how excited the Florida State fan base is going to be is if they come out the week before the West Virginia game and announce that James Blackman's the quarterback again. There's not going to be a lot of celebration. And he brought it up, and he doesn't listen to this show at all, but the people that do know that I've talked about this a lot, but he's like, yeah, that bowl game, He's like, he looked like one of the kids on these baseball teams, like these 11-year-olds that strike out every time he made a mistake. I'm like, yeah, that was what was so troubling. It wasn't just that he didn't play well; it affected him so much that's not how leaders don't. That position, you can't be affected that much. Like you want a Telvin Smith at linebacker, you want a Mike Singletary at linebacker. Like we're go out there like a bunch of crazed dogs, but a quarterback's got to have a little calmness to him. He's got to be more of a calming influence, and he can't beat himself up that much. That's not going to give anybody any confidence in you if you're beating yourself up like that. And so that was really concerning when I saw that. But you know what? That was also 7 months ago now. And so who really knows who the quarterback is going to be, or if he's changed his ways a little bit and maybe grown up, matured in that aspect anyway. And I lean towards Chuba, but man, it's hard. It's impossible to know. It's impossible to know. They had one day in pads. I would not be completely stunned if it was Jordan Travis either. I'm not predicting that. I don't think it's going to be him. But that wouldn't stun me either. Maybe he's better thrower of the ball than the previous staff realized.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is just it's like shoddy logic. It's just I think James. Maybe he does start a few games. Maybe he starts the opener, and if things go sideways at some point, then he's replaced. But I just feel like with the clean slate of practices, I mean, I don't know. I kind of trust. I hate being the guy like, oh no, the coaches know best, but usually they do. That's why they get paid a lot of money. But like Kendall Briles, and I don't know how much of him and Willie clashed heads on personnel. And we know that center of all things was something that they actually had some sort of disagreement on. But I mean, when you're kind of scratching and clawing and you're losing the games the way you do, why wasn't Jordan Travis given a look at earlier? I mean, and then when he was in the games, like we never did see him throw the ball. And then in the limited practice that we did see, he wasn't involved in the passing offense when they would go to team exercise. Now, he could have maybe had a sore shoulder or something like that. Rodemaker, for me, I don't know how he just doesn't seem to have as much athleticism as Purdy. And again, like that just, to me, when you have so many deficiencies on that side of the ball on offense, the more athleticism you have at the quarterback position just seems like a better play for you. And again, this is limited looking at tape from his high school as a senior, but just he was a guy that knew the reads to make, got the ball out on time. And just think about, I mean, look at the schedule again. And we really do beat up James. A lot of people beat up James, and this is me probably being way too defensive over him. But if Cam doesn't fumble against Boise, they probably win that game. And then who knows what happens last season. We're sitting here and we just probably wasted 30 minutes talking about Marvin Wilson getting upset at his coach because maybe Willie Taggart's still here. But like the Virginia game, the Wake Forest game, there's probably some place out there to be made. And then obviously the Sun Bowl, you can probably put on James Blackman's shoulders. I mean, not probably, you can. Although, whatever, Trey McKitty ran the wrong route, but still, that was the fourth pick. The other three hurt pretty bad too. So it's like there's options out there. There's a way that this offense can actually be pretty good as long as a guy can keep a good, steady demeanor and just knows how to get the ball out of his hands and can feel things around him pretty well too. I think James, a lot of it too, maybe he's broken just from getting battered for so many seasons back there. But so much of it just being able to feel the pressure and then move out of the way, climb the pocket. We never even saw really DeAndre do that all that well. So it's the devil you don't know in this situation is more intriguing than the devil you do. We'll
Indeed. Well said. Well said.
All right. We got a few more, or maybe we don't have. Let's double back to this. Marnol 55. After all this, are you worried that Coach Norvell will shut out the media and interviews during the season? There's a lot of this on the message board, too, about you guys are screwed, which I don't understand why.
The media did nothing wrong. The media accurately quoted the head coach. Like to a T, like every word was accurate.
We call that verbatim, right? Is that what we call it? Verbatim?
Well, verbatim is probably the right word to use. And then the other one was his own player tweeting it out. But I was thinking about that. Like the one thing that I thought that Norvell when he was having the meeting with the players that could have rightfully brought up is like, look, the person that was I can't remember exactly what Taggart's Twitter stance was. But Jimbo wouldn't allow any of you guys to tweet. I want you to have your platforms. I want you to be out there and say how you feel. And this is part of it. You know what I mean? Like I'm certainly not. I can't get too mad at you tweeting something negative because I want you to be able to tweet. That's why I don't want to take that from you. You're a grown man, and you have every ability in the world to be able to espouse your opinions to your followers. And I don't think that. I think that would be an awful look for Norvell, because we talked about it when he got the job. Like, look, it's one thing to coach at Memphis when you're begging for attention and coverage. It's another thing at Florida State when you might at one point be like, please go away. Enough. Like it could be too much. There's a completely different worlds between Memphis football and Florida State football. But I think that would be an awful look to his fan base if the first time something like this happens. And there might not ever be a thing like this again. That's another thing I wrote. It's like, what a way to get the biggest challenge of career out of the way before you've coached a game. Like the team leader, your best player on the team, lights you up on Twitter on a random June Wednesday night, and you have to go deal with it the next day where there's almost a mutiny on your hands, and then it comes out like that. That's you can't get bigger than that. But I think it would be an awful move if then he's like, you know what, I'm peeling it back. Number one, you guys can't use Twitter as much, and also we're going to peel back the media restriction. I don't see that happening at all. I think this is a guy that is very, very comfortable in the program he runs and comfortable in his own skin and wants to showcase his players. It wants to get them out in front of people and out in front of the fans. So I would be stunned if that were to happen.
Yeah, and if there's any sort of residual resentment to Sean, which I don't think there is, and nor should there be, he's not on the beat. And I mean, again, I think they're going to give us plenty of slack to go out there and watch these practices and do it somewhat along the lines of what he did in Memphis. And then if we slip up, then it's on us. But yeah, the media didn't slip up in the situation. Sorry, everybody. I know that's
again, like I said, it wasn't the dude writing down the quote. It was the dude saying the quote that messed that one up. And so yeah, that's on him. And I just think he's a big enough person. I think he's comfortable enough in his own skin to realize that that was in no way, the media was just doing its job, and yeah, I don't see that happening. It better not, Norvell. I know you're listening to this. It better not happen.
I mentioned this the other day, not on the show, but in life, in real life. Man, I do wonder I think they said that they're going to do blended scheduling or whatever. Like they're going to have some face-to-face instruction during fall, but they're going to probably do a lot of online as well still. Read Ira's story on Warchant.com. It's got all the details in it. But I do wonder if this opens a door potentially to maybe do afternoon practices. So, Mike, if you're listening.
There you go.
Although, listen, in Memphis, he did afternoon practices during the spring, and then during the season, he went to morning. But, if your guys don't have to be in a classroom, Could you imagine, Corey, like if practicing until 4? Can you imagine a world? I mean, that's the thing. You lived in that world.
I lived in it.
That was the world that I was sold. I was sold that world. It was taken away from me.
I lived in that world for a decade. I didn't appreciate that world, honestly. Now, we didn't get to watch practice, but I didn't appreciate going to interview players at 6 o'clock at night and then picking up dinner on the way home. No, I didn't know I'd have to be picking up breakfast on the way to interviews. That came out of nowhere. So yeah, that'll be that would be a nice perk of this whole thing, is if he goes to afternoon practices.
Do it, Mike.
But either way, I think he's going to keep us invited in.
I do as well. Yeah. All right, last one. It comes from Gator188, who apparently is never going to tell us his first name. There's a story, and he's called Gator, but he says that we can call him G, so we're going to call him G.
Okay.
Because that's just how much I dislike the Gators. No questions from Maxwell Gibbs this week. Maxwell Gibbs, I don't know if he's in purgatory or in Chile, as they say, for people who get banned on Warchant. He wasn't a fan of the biggest gut punch loss video. He had a pretty snide comment, kind of hurt a little bit, Maxwell, because your guy edited it, and then your other guy was on camera doing it. So what's up with the friendly fire, Maxwell? Simmer down, man. If you're listening to this, come on. Come back home. Knock it off.
Oh, I didn't see. He had something mean to say.
Yeah, that was kind of.
Oh
weird.
well, what are we gonna do?
So, what was the biggest gut punch loss ever in Florida State history?
Wide right.
Wide right.
One. The original.
The original.
Yeah, there are a lot to choose from.
I thought it was a great series.
But hey, on that same, it was fine. I mean, it's something to look, man. This isn't like we went into back around Christmas time, we're like, look, guys, once we get into like May, right around baseball super regionals, let's try to come up with the worst memories for Florida State fans. It's just we're trying to come up with original content, something that we can talk about, something that kind of takes you back. There's nostalgia, and obviously 90% of it is really fun, great memories. In fact, the most recent war chat was with with Kes McCorby for the 1993 Florida game, which you guys all remember with Ward to Dunn, and I know that we played that. But then this next one that's going to be next week is our man Christian Ponder. So, and he was awesome. He was great, by the way, because my power went out right when he got on the Zoom call. My power cut off for like 10 minutes.
I saw that. Yeah. It
was really, really wonderful. But so Ponder was great. So we're doing all that too, where it's not like we're just, hey guys, we want you to be in a little more distress in this time of our life, in this time in the nation's history. So, and in your history. So let's bring up some painful moments.
No, it wasn't needed. I think most people take it for what it is at face value. And like, I think somebody even talked about why is it as fans or just human beings, like for some reason, like the losses stick with us more. I mean, I forgot who posted the thread, but it got a bunch of likes, was just like, he's like, I vividly remember the losses so much more than like the wins to a certain degree. And I'm like, yeah, that's the reason why. I mean, like that's your job. Like Jimbo got paid $6 million a year to win football games. Like you won a national championship. Like, that was your job. It's like the inexplicable stuff is like what really sticks in your craw. That's the stuff that I feel like you really dive deeply into. There's like some real emotion behind it. Not that like winning a national championship was boring. That was awesome. I was there for it. But yeah, when you talk about like losing to NC State in 20, I mean, literally, you go there. Your brain always goes there.
It's just human nature, but it's like, speaking of NC State, like, remember the 2016 game? I think I might have brought this up before, where Francois throws the interception right to the guy in the end zone. Like it hits him in the numbers, and he drops it. Yeah. And then 2 plays later, he hits Nooney for the game-winning, I think it was Nooney, for the game-winning touchdown. It was. It's like, is that one of the most painful losses in NC? Do you think NC State fans remember that? As much as I think it's because of the program, number one. NC State loses all the time.
Yeah.
But for a program like Florida State, especially the 90s that didn't lose a lot, all of the losses were painful. It just kind of illustrates how much fun it is in a way. Honestly, like it's fun to cheer for a team where the losses are that painful, because I guarantee anybody listening to this show, they haven't had a loss really affect them in 4 or 5 years? Well, because it becomes common, and you get used to it and you get numb to it. And it's just it's another loss. But in the 90s or back when Jimbo had it rolling, those losses stung for a while.
It's just crazy because I don't know what Florida State's reputation is like nationally in terms of like the wins and losses. I think so many people think of obviously Bobby Bowden and Jameis Winston and national championships, but like, our losses are epic freaking losses. When you get a field goal blocked and returned and lose to a team that gets their only conference win off blocking said kick as time expires and snaps your, 29-game winning streak? And that's not even a top 10 gut punch loss in your program's history? You've lived through some stuff.
Yeah, mostly good stuff. But you mostly good stuff. But yeah, there's been some. It's just like any great poker player. Like all the great ones, man, they have had some beats where it has just been an impossibility that they lost that hand.
On the river.
Just like that, like a river card where there's one card in the deck. A 3 of diamonds is the only thing that can beat them, and that's what shows up to give the other guy straight flush. That it's just, and that Phil Ivey remembers that more than he remembers getting lucky on the river against some schmo on day 2 of the main event. Like where it just kept, but that guy, the unlucky schmo, remembers that for the rest of his life. That's just, it's human nature, man. It's really bizarre in a way, but it's like those losses hurt more than the wins feel good.
Yep.
Weirdly.
That's me, man. I'm agony of defeat drives me more than the thrill of victory. That's me.
Except I've seen in golf. Like in golf, I'm so used to the bad shots because I hit so many of them. That it's that one like wedge that I hit to within 6 feet or 4 feet that I'm like, yes, sir. I'm going to remember that. That's the shot I'm going to be thinking about on the way home. Not the 3 that I sprayed into the lake or the one that I hit the kid and they had to call the paramedics. I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about the one where I almost hold it from 80 yards out.
Are you coming down this weekend?
No. Brady's got a tournament. He's got his first tournament.
All right.
Following social distancing protocols. No sunflower seeds, no chew.
Good.
I'm having to wean Brady off it because he loves that stuff.
Red man.
And then they no handshakes. If you say good game by standing on the foul line and tipping the cap, kids can't get stuff out of the same water cooler. Basic, no mask. I mean, you're
good.
Yeah, they do have these. And if your team isn't playing in the park, you're not allowed to be in the park.
Good.
So you have to go to the parking lot. So they're coming up with reasons to, or they're coming up with their own social distancing guidelines. And I do think, even though this is a different part of the country I live with, and some people don't necessarily believe in all this, I think they'll be pretty strict at the tournament because they know maybe a cop or two will drive by.
Yeah.
And you think about these people that put on these baseball tournaments. Youth baseball is a huge moneymaker, and they've lost almost their entire revenue for an entire spring. So they're going to do whatever it takes to make sure they have a tournament next weekend and the weekend after that. So I think they're going to be pretty strict. I hope anyway. I hope they're going to be sticklers and make sure everybody's safe.
Now to G's question. It's really a bunch of comments, and they're all tilted and geared towards the best person on the show, me.
Oh, good. All right.
I'm kidding. It's for you, Corey. Wake up! Good day, Aslan and Corey. Things are definitely heating up in Tally, controversy and conflict. Let's get back to one tribe. Hey, what's up, Corey? With that flashing the deuces at the end of your live chats, etc. In addition, when I am lucky, let me read that again. In addition, when I am lucky enough to get a question read on Seminole headlines, it would be nice if Corey paid attention, given all the props I send your way. By the way, Corey, I hope it's okay that I dated a deaf girl. LOL, all caps. Keep up the awesome coverage. Go Noles.
Now I have to explain that.
I got the deuces because everybody needs to have a signature.
Yeah, and my dad always thought I should wear Hawaiian shirts. When I first became a sports writer, he bought me like 6 Hawaiian shirts and said that's going to be my shtick. Is I'm going to wear these Hawaiian shirts. I'm like, Dad, look at me. I'm not a. What do you call it? The color wheel? Your thing. You said somebody came and told you.
It's on your color wheel. It's on your color wheel.
Yeah, the floral isn't on my color wheel. And also, like, I think my shtick hopefully will be that I'm good at my job. Not that I look like Magnum PI without the good looks or the hair. And then, so I just started doing deuces at the end. I was like, well, that's going to be my thing now. I'm going to just flash deuces. Like, we're out, peace. Yeah. And also, I'm really hip, and I know the kids are still doing that, right? Everybody still flashes deuces, right?
Absolutely.
That's a thing. I think I started that. As far as the deaf, and I do pay attention. I try to. I really do. I pay attention to most every question. I got in an altercation with a deaf kid in the 7th grade. If you want to hear the whole story, go to Seminole Headlines. I'm not a monster. We were actually good friends. The kid was a very good athlete. He was a better writer than I was. He was funny. We were friends. It was just one of those friendly, like when you get in those weird pushing matches with a friend and then it becomes not friendly anymore. It just so happened. And then I pushed him. He fell down onto something and knocked himself out.
Oh,
wasn't great. Wasn't a great moment in my life. Not a big fan of it. So actually, don't go back and listen to that on the headlines if you haven't heard it. It's not worth hearing.
Right, you got it in you, man. I'm glad. Bulldog.
No, I wasn't. I think that was probably the last real altercation I got in. No, that's not true. But it was one of the last ones. And yeah, I did not feel good. I still see it. It's weird how something from 30 plus years ago, something like that, just is still seared in your brain. I can remember everything about it.
Were you guys stronger? Were you guys stronger afterwards as a friendship?
No, I don't remember that happening. So to counter the point I was making earlier, I didn't bring up my altercation with Chris in the 7th grade because we did not really remain friends after that.
He's Corey. I'm Aslan.
That's how we're leaving it for
Thanks.
the week.
I mean, we came full circle.
Okay, we did. God bless everyone. Peace, love.
Thanks for hanging in for what was an interesting show. Corey, one of these days we'll get back to you signing us off on the weekend. I can't wait, right? Will you, like when we get back to football season, will you give us words of encouragement, wisdom to carry us into the weekend?
Absolutely. It would be my honor, Aslan. It would be my honor.
Fantastic. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Warchant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. Warchant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WARCHANT30. That's WARCHANT30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WARCHANT30. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.